Check, check, semblance, semblance. 1, 2, check, check.
It's not nearly as much fun.
That's fast.
That's okay. Go wait, go wait. Oh my God, I really fell.
Oh, we could have prevented that accident.
Then we have somebody else call me the broken leg.
Boy, it's lonely down here. Yeah, so move on up there.
Okay, I'm calling this evening's meeting of City Council to order. If you'll all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody. The first item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda, which is simply a group of items to be acted upon with a single motion or vote. It's designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. After I've read the consent items, I will ask if a citizen or council member wishes to have any specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion. And if somebody expresses a desire to have an item removed, they may request to do so, and it'll be removed prior to council's vote. The items on tonight's consent agenda include approval of the work session and regular meeting minutes of January the 22nd, 2019, approval of the expenditure vouchers for February the 12th, 2019, approval of the renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for non-Chinese restaurant, approval of a renewal beer and wine liquor license for Hong Kong Chinese restaurant, and approval of a special event permit for the Cortez City of Commerce, their business after hours to be held on February the 22nd at the Wigglin' Pig. Is there any item that anybody would like to have removed?
I don't have any.
In that case, may I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the addition of $82,818.32.
Second.
Lucero.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Betts. Aye. Noyes.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. This evening, we have a presentation for the Brain Awareness Week proclamation. I see we have people in the audience, so if you come and state your name, please, and give us a little bit of background information.
Turn on the microphone, please.
Just push
There.
it. It'll turn
I think that's
green.
working.
I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Sharon Spinney, and I'm here representing the Four Corners Dance Society, and we have members here who are also in that society, as well as Legacy Dance, and we are working together with the Dana Alliance for Brain Initiatives. So, did you want me to say anything more about that, or?
Could you tell us maybe just a little bit more about what the Brain Initiative is?
So the Dana Alliance is an international program that wants to help people become aware of the various pieces of research that are coming out so that they can benefit from what's going on. So it's all about knowing what kind of activities, what kinds of medical findings are happening, and people linking together with that information. And the piece that we're bringing forth here is the activities, the things, the everyday kinds of activities that people can access for themselves. So there's a lot of research that's showing dance, and social dance really encompasses a lot of the aspects of things that are found to be profoundly helpful for the brain. And they're written into that proclamation, so I think we could go ahead and hear that proclamation.
Brain Awareness Week proclamation, whereas conditions and diseases of the brain and nervous system, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, aging, stroke, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, and addictions are very real problems for the citizens of Cortez, Colorado. And whereas many individuals in the Cortez area are afflicted with diseases or disorders that can be helped by scientific evidence and findings from biomedical and neuroscience research. And whereas we are reaching a new era based on the rapid progress in the study of the brain, which improves the understanding of how lifestyle activities promote brain health. And whereas the most beneficial activities bring qualities of mindfulness, connecting with rhythmic patterns, memorizing movements, and social connectivity, are additionally enhanced by learning of new movement patterns to be used interactively and on the fly. And whereas the Four Corners Dance Society has collaborated with social dance organizations to create free awareness activities to introduce citizens to dance, as well as providing brain awareness information through literature and workshop. And whereas increased citizen awareness of available brain protective activities may contribute to the utilization of those programs and thereby help prevent or alleviate problems associated with brain disorders for the citizens of Cortez. And whereas Brain Awareness Week activities will encourage the exchange among providers of other types of brain protective activities, resulting in a more diverse participation of this event in future years. Now, therefore, I, Karen W. Sheik, Mayor of Cortez, Colorado, do hereby proclaim Brain Awareness Week as March the 11th through the 17th, 2019.
Thank you. Thank you. We are so excited and so grateful for this opportunity. And I want to say that we've got a lot of people who are already starting that chatter, and we're hoping that maybe next year we'll be asking for the whole month. There's that much interest and so many other activities as well. But thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
Well, hopefully with Sean here this evening, you'll get a little write-up in the paper to kind of explain.
Rick, I think they're going to have them all come over here.
Oh.
You guys can go down there.
Any time today, Rick.
I'm wanted in too many states, I can't afford that.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Barrier. No, it's going to just be a barrier. Lower. Thank you.
All right, at this time, in our agenda, we always invite citizen participation. Now, I can't believe you guys are leaving.
They're gonna go dance.
No, you have to stay for the entire council meeting. If there is any citizen in the audience that would like to address council, this is your first opportunity to do that. If you're interested, please step to the mic and state your name and address. Right. In that case, the first item on the agenda is public hearing, resolution number 4, series 2019, the conditional use permit for the fitness gym. Neva.
Okay, good evening. The applicants, Micah and Annette Radowski, have applied to the city for a conditional use permit at 2310 East Empire to operate a fitness gym. The property is fully developed and located on the northwest corner of Empire and Highway 145. Surrounding uses are single-family residential to the north, east, and west, multifamily to the south, and commercial highway to the southeast. The applicant is seeking to use the property for golf training, video instruction, coaching, fitness, food and beverage, including alcohol, and the retail sales of golf equipment. These uses most closely fall under the land use code for private fitness club or recreation center and would be permitted as a conditional use permit in the neighborhood business zone. Current use of the building includes a CrossFit gym, and I included in your staff packet a memo from December 2017 where the Planning and Zoning Commission discussed the historic use of this building as a gym for about the last 20 years. And they interpreted the use then as legally non-conforming. An approved conditional use permit today will legitimize the ongoing use of this property as a gym, as well as the proposed expanded fitness uses. The 9,000 square foot facility requires 1 parking space per 300 square feet, or in this case about 30 spaces. The existing parking lot is about 45 spaces and will meet the requirements of the land use code. And we've had a couple meetings over this property over the last year. It was rezoned from residential to neighborhood business over the summer in 2018. And as discussed, the building has been used as a fitness center for about 20 years. The CrossFit gym that exists in the building will remain unchanged, and the use of the remaining space as a golf training center will have similar impacts as the building's previous tenants. Most recently, the gym, or the space, was used as a gymnastics center. The snack bar is a proposed expanded use and will require that the applicants meet health department requirements and obtain a liquor license. The staff report reviews the criteria presented in the land use code for a conditional use permit. In general, the traffic patterns will likely remain the same or similar to past uses, which include gym and gymnastics center. The facility will be open year-round. The applicants have proposed to add a snack bar, which is considered an expanded use of the facility. They also have proposed to add an entrance ramadas to the building to increase the aesthetic appeal of the building. The project was sent out for agency review and comments received were included in the staff report. There were no objections to the project. The applicant's proposal meets several of the comp plan goals and objectives, including to promote year-round recreation activities and events locally, and to encourage efforts to expand winter recreation opportunities. Staff and agency comments were received. The CDOT would like to see that the applicant's ingress and egress from Cherry Street, which would require vehicles to drive through the neighboring property's parking lot. However, this is not a CDOT requirement, and at this time, staff is not requiring this request. That would be up to the applicants and the adjacent property owner to work out an easement if that's something they would like to pursue. P&Z held a public hearing for this project on January 15th, 2019, and unanimously recommended to forward for council approval.
Excuse me.
So do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I have none, Neva.
I don't have any.
Would you like to add anything at this time?
Micah Radowski, and I have the building there at 2310 East Main. But I just want to, first off, thank you all for helping us through this process. I've learned a lot, and the time it takes, and just appreciate that how you led us here and where we are right now. I appreciate the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning to you all to recommend for this conditional use, and understanding that we still have some requirements that we need to meet with this, and I'm here today to answer any questions that you might have for me, if I can do that.
Any questions?
No, I have none.
I don't have any.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against this facility? Okay, seeing nobody come forward, I close the public hearing. If there are no other questions or comments, may I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve a conditional use permit to establish a fitness club at 2310 East Empire as submitted by agents Micah and Annette Radowski, agents for Radowski Unlimited LLC, Council Resolution Number 4, 2019, with the following conditions.
Second.
Noyes,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Sheep.
Aye. One more hurdle. All right, the next item on the agenda is ordinance 1261, series 2019, the airport land lease with Waste Management. Is somebody going to report for Russ? Oh, okay.
Basically, you have the lease attached to state law requires an ordinance approving transactions in real estate leases longer than 5 years, so that's why we're here.
Okay.
Staff recommends approval of the lease by the ordinance, and as Russ presented last week.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear cut last
Yeah.
meeting. Streamline that one.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
Public hearing.
Honorable,
It's a public hearing.
Oh, I thought this was, sorry. Well, this is an ordinance, not a is this a public hearing? Okay, sorry. All right, at this time, I'd like to open this up to public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against this ordinance? All right, seeing no takers, I'm closing the public hearing. Now may we have a motion?
Your Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to the approval of the land lease with Waste Management of Colorado.
Second.
Betts,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
All right. All right, moving on. Ordinance number 1262, series 2019, public hearing for including the original town site of Cortez, included in the Cortez Historic Register.
All right, I gave a little update a couple weeks ago on this ordinance. This is to add the old county courthouse at 109 West Main to the historic designation in Cortez. So the city has been designated by the state as a certified local government in 2010. And as part of that, that allowed the city to have 5 different grants from the Colorado Historical Society for the purpose of conducting site surveys for historic structures in Cortez. We've had 5 different surveys and with 166 different properties surveyed. Of those, 87 have been determined to be eligible for historic designation, and of those, 50 eligible property owners have applied to City Council for historic designation. 49 have received that designation, and this project is the 50th. So this property was determined eligible under the 5th survey completed in 2017. The county came forward with an application to apply for historic designation after being contacted by the Historic Preservation Board about their eligibility. So it's the historic courthouse in both sections. The original one built in 1937, and the addition built in 1960 are both eligible for historic preservation. So the entire site is part of this application.
Council, are there any questions?
I don't have any. I have none, Eva, thanks.
All right, I'd like to open this up to public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak for or against this ordinance? Okay, seeing no one? Okay.
Madam Council.
Close the public hearing? Yes. Motion, please.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask that we approve the final reading on ordinance number 1262, series 1219, approving the inclusion of the structure located within the original town site of Cortez to be included in the City of Cortez Register of Historic Structures, Sites, and Districts, specifically the structure at 109 West Main Street.
Second.
Noyes?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Betts? Aye. Sheik?
Aye. All right, we have some unfinished business. A request was made that the council sign a letter of support for a statewide hydrocarbon emissions reduction task force and for the Colorado Air Quality Control Commission. John.
I don't really have a lot to add. I spent several hours last week looking up the articles that were included in your packets. A lot of the articles were just way over my head, very technical, so I did not include those, but the two I did find that were not nearly as technical, I included in your packet, and I tried to stay away from all those industry reports and things, so I believe what I included in your packet was strictly from the Colorado Department of Public Health. They're the ones pushing this, and so I felt that that was the most appropriate things to include in your packet.
All right, any questions?
So it just looks like it's just more regulations, right?
May I have a motion, please? Well, we need a motion to either vote to sign the letter of support or not to sign the letter of support.
Oh, Mayor, I would like to make a motion to pass on the signing of the letter of support for to have the air quality standards currently applied only to the front range be applied statewide.
You do want to sign the letter?
I'm making a motion.
Deny.
Not to sign the
Pass.
letter. Okay,
I'll second it. Lucero?
Aye.
Betts? Aye. Noyes?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Sheik?
nay. All right, under new business, we have a quasi-judicial hearing set for tonight. I would like to remind anyone on council that if you have discussed this topic with anyone prior to this evening, that you must please disclose that conversation so that a determination can be made as to whether you should participate in the discussion and then subsequently vote on the matter. This is a public hearing for the new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Wiggling Pig there on Main Street. Linda.
This is,
90s.
Mike?
I don't mind doing it.
Okay.
we are not doing, we're just setting the public hearing for
Okay.
another date.
Excuse me.
So we would just need a motion to set the public hearing as announced on
Right.
the agenda. And it's for February 26th for a liquor license for Wiggling Pig.
Correct.
Attorney Green, would you mind turning your mic on when you speak, please?
Thank you.
What we're doing is just setting the public hearing for or setting the date of the public hearing for the public hearing. And we've got it listed as February 26th.
Boundaries for the petition process.
And the petition process for circulating the petitions for or against the license.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that to set a public hearing dated February 26, 2019, and the neighborhood boundaries as the city limits for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for the Wiggling Pig, LLC DBA Wiggling Pig, located at 14 West Main Street, Cortez.
44.
Or 44, excuse me.
Second.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Cheek.
Aye. We have a second quasi-judicial item, setting a public hearing for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Rudowski Unlimited, which would be the facility that is located on the highway and Empire. If there are no questions, can I have a motion for setting that hearing for February the 26th?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to set the public hearing date of February 26, 2019 for review of a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Rudowski Unlimited to be located at 2310 East Empire and the neighborhood boundaries set as the city limits.
Second.
Lucero,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Cheek.
Aye. All right, Dean, appointment Parks, Recreation, Forestry Advisory Board member.
Yes, good evening, City Council, and this is nice having these live mics. The Parks, Recreation, and
I think yours is turned up to 11.
Yeah.
Use the red button.
I can turn it off if it's, too bad.
Spinal Tap reference.
Is everybody awake now?
Yeah. So the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board for the City of Cortez consists of 9 voting members, and all members shall be Montezuma County residents. Currently, 3 adult vacancies exist for the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board. The city has received 1 letter of interest from Alan Klein. The Parks and Recreation Forestry Advisory Board members discussed Alan Klein serving on the advisory board at their Friday, January 18, 2019 meeting, and have given their unanimous support for Alan Klein to serve a 2-year term on the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board. For this evening, the City Council may either choose to interview the candidate prior to making its decision or forego the interview and simply base its decision upon review of his letter of interest and the recommendation of the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board. And I would say, boy, this is getting used to this here. I think Alan Klein would serve us really well, and if Mike Leve was here, he was at that meeting, and I think he would throw in his support too, as well as of Alan Klein being on our advisory board. Any questions? I guess.
No, sir.
All right, if there are no questions, may I have a motion, please?
I make a motion appointing Alan Klein to the Parks and Rec
Rec and Forestry Advisory Board, and recommended by the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board, and forego the interview process.
I'll second that.
Noyes?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Betts? Aye. Lucero?
Aye.
Sheik?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Dean. Bill, refuse truck replacement.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening. This is the culmination of our discussion we had at the last work session about our failed refuse foreman's truck and purchasing it, even though we didn't budget for it last year because it was failing. The discussion we had was to fully fund a brand new truck, but in speaking with Marvin Kramer, the maintenance supervisor, and then Eddie Villalpando, our refuse foreman, that we determined that a new to us truck would adequately meet our needs. It doesn't have to be a brand new unit. And Marvin did in fact look locally to 3 manufacturers, providers, Chevy, Ford, and Dodge, and was able to find a 2012 F-250 at Kazee with 52,000 miles on it for the purchase price of $20,950. It's really in good condition. It's mechanically sound, and like I said, it'll meet all of the needs we have for delivering polycarts or doing the kind of work that Eddie does when he's not hauling refuse. So it is the recommendation that if you agree that we go ahead and make the purchase of this used truck from Kazee Motor Companies in the amount of $20,950 to be funded out of the Refuse Enterprise Fund.
Any questions, Council?
I don't have any.
May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion approving the purchase of a used truck from Kazee's Motor Company in the amount of $20,950 out of their Refuse Enterprise Fund.
Second.
Betts? Aye. Lucero?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Noyes?
Aye.
Sheik?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, resolution number 3, series 2019, the CHAMP incentive program. Zach?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, it's our CHAMP, and this resolution is for our CHAMP incentive program. This is the Cortez Housing Affordability and Mitigation Plan. Little background on it. When City Manager Doherty came on staff shortly thereafter, he had asked us if we had any incentive programs planned or had we considered any. And we happened to have one that we'd been thinking about for the last 9 months or so and just hadn't done it at that point. So we brought that to the council's attention on November 27th of 2018. And then got the approval to move forward with it. So back in 2012, if some of you might recall, we did the We're in This Together incentive program, kind of on the heels of the 2008 crash, and that was geared towards commercial development, 10,000 square foot and smaller. That was a very successful program, and basically this is just a spin-off of that, but really geared towards development in residential lots, especially some of our vacant parcels and blighted and or underutilized areas. So same basic program, same premise. The city's comp plan actually targets out, it names these areas as being ones that the city should consider to incentivize. So we're keeping in keeping with the comp plan's wishes on that. So on January 15th, we had a stakeholders meeting. And out of that meeting, two main themes kept coming up when people viewed the map. One was reduce or waive the use tax to incentivize new home construction in the targeted areas. And then the second thing was to extend that incentive to platted subdivisions that have yet to be developed. And the stakeholders wanted to run that for a period of time that would be measured in years rather than months. So after internal review on that, item 1, reducing or waiving the fees and use tax is pretty simple. Trying to incentivize property that has yet to be developed over a period of time is pretty problematic, and not the least of which we're in the middle of redoing our land use code. So at this time, staff, we feel that it's not appropriate to try to incentivize those undeveloped lots. It's just going to be for legally platted, ready-to-build lots is what we're proposing. Excuse me. For site-built stick frame homes, a traditional built home, we're proposing that we waive the fees, pardon me, I should say reduce the fees, 75% on both the building permit and the use tax fee. This way, if we're not just completely waiving the use tax, we can go ahead and issue a tax exempt certificate for the project. That way the contractors get really the benefit of just waiving the fee, but it also incentivizes our local contractors to still use local sources for their materials, which is one of the main targets of the use tax, is to try to get the contractors to buy local and shop local, really is what that's for. So we feel like it's a win-win for not just the contractors, but for our local vendors. For new HUD and Colorado IRC approved manufactured homes, anything that's hauled in the city, we're proposing that we just waive 100% of those building permit fees and use tax fees, and we'll kind of go over some of those fees in just a second and see what that would entail. So most of our entry-level homes, which we're anticipating would take advantage of this because of the type of lots they would be targeting. 1,500 square foot home is about $5,500, a little over $5,500 in fees. A little over $3,900 of that is in use tax. Excuse me, a 75% incentive rate would reduce those total fees by about $4,150, so just a little bit over what the use tax would be. So over the last 3 years, we've issued 49 new home permits. 15 of those permits would have fallen into the proposed incentive area. So you run the math on that, that's a revenue of about $20,750. So if things run status quo on that, you know, that's how much we're potentially going to lose. I have to say, if people take advantage of it, that like we're hoping they do, and some of the interest that we've had where somebody might take one of these blighted homes off the city's hands that we've been kind of looking at, those things run about $25,000 to demolish, which the city's incurred. So if we get one of those, we feel like we've kind of got a win on that. And like I said, we've already been in talks with some contractors that have taken an interest in that. Manufactured homes. Over the last 3 years, we've issued 28 manufactured home permits. None of those have been new homes. The fees for a new home, double wide home, is about $970. So really, if we get anybody to start moving in new homes, we're not talking a lot of money, and we just haven't had a lot of new homes moving in. So we're trying to get that housing stock newer and kind of upgrade instead of already moving something into an old area that's just old again and perpetuating kind of the problems in the area. So we don't really see there's going to be a large financial impact for manufactured homes. I will say that we've already had some interest in with some of our dealers. I think I mentioned at the workshop that we've got one of our dealers/installers that wants to try to sweeten that pot a little bit more and waive some of his fees to try to help move this thing along. And that's really what we're trying to do, is facilitate our local builders, real estate agents, and folks to take advantage of this and let them come up with creative ways that'll spark some more development in residential construction. So, well, with that, we're asking that the City Council would go ahead and approve this program, which will run for 1 year, which really, in effect, goes for about 18 months if you look at it realistically. So if somebody comes in on the last day, March, what have we got, March 1st of next year, and buys a permit, they have that permit good for 6 months. So if somebody wants to take advantage of it, you know, they can purchase the permit while they're getting the rest of their finance. So it could conceivably be a benefit for an 18-month period in reality. So,
Sam, let me ask a question. If this winds up being wildly successful, Is there, would planning and building consider extending this?
Are we considering extending it?
Extending
You know, that's a good question. What we want to do is we kind of want to monitor it. We're going to try to track it and just do some, we'll probably do some longer range comparisons instead of just a 3-year period, is kind of what's going on in my mind. See where we come out, kind of run it out for maybe like the last 7 or 8 years, and just see if there truly was a spike, you know, over a little longer range time frame, and also see what kind of feedback we get from the development community. You know, there's only so many lots probably out there that can take advantage of this, and you know, some of those aren't probably, maybe somebody doesn't want to sell them. You know, so we may exhaust that supply. I don't know. We'll just have to kind of see. Sure, there's no reason why we couldn't, but we don't know if there will be a really interest in it after so much time. So,
any other questions, council?
I have none. Thanks, Sam.
May I have a motion?
Your Honorable Mayor, I would like to make a motion approving resolution number 3, series 2019, establishing the Cortez Housing Affordability and Mitigation Plan CHAMP incentive program for the 1-year time period beginning March 1st, 2019 through March 1st, 2020.
Second.
Noyes.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Betts.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye.
Thanks, Sam.
Ordinance 1264, Series 2019. This would be the first reading allowing theaters as either a conditional or a permitted use in the open zone by amending the land use code. Tracy.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. So right now the land use code is not very clear about allowing such uses in the well, originally this started out with the neighborhood business district allowing theaters in the neighborhood business district because Montezuma Park is zoned neighborhood business. And so the next ordinance will kind of clarify this, but in the open space zone, that's also not clear. And you can interpret outdoor stages or band shells as a theater. Theater is not defined in our land use code, but staff looked at a range of definitions for theater and other land use codes, and some of them did include outdoor stages and amphitheaters. And so because this is the best category in our land use code, that's where it fell. So it was the closest use was theaters. The Planning Commission discussed this at 2 different Planning Commission meetings, and at the first discussion they recommended we hold a neighborhood meeting, and that happened back in December to discuss the idea of having an outdoor stage in Montezuma Park. And kind of the outcome of that discussion when we reported back to the Planning Commission was they recommended we rezone Montezuma Park and change the land use code to allow theaters in the open space zone. On February 5th, staff presented that change in the code to allow as a permitted use in the open zone theaters, and the Planning Commission discussed this, and they preferred, instead of a permitted use, that it be a conditional use. And conditional uses do require applicants or any of the development to come back through the Planning Commission and Council, and it does require 2 public hearings. So that was their recommendation to Council, that it be a conditional use and not a permitted use. It would be allowed if passed, if the conditional use was approved. So either way, there's a path forward. One just requires a slightly more onerous process. So staff tonight, because we initially proposed it as a permitted use, we've left that in the staff report and are making that recommendation. And again, that's staff from various departments. And we are carrying forward that recommendation, but we do ask council to recognize the Planning Commission's recommendation as well in your discussion.
Are there any questions?
I don't have any.
John?
Tracy, are there any other areas of the city that are open, or zoned open, that do not belong to the city?
There are. I don't know the address, but it's the Children's Kiva building that was formerly the Justice Building, that's just east of the police station.
601.
But that's the only other one?
It's the only one I'm aware of, right? Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Madam Mayor, if I may, I was at this meeting and I really had a hard time just sitting there because the Planning Commission is, in my view, trying to tie the hands of the council. The open space is city property. We're not going to do anything that you're not aware of and have approved. So I asked her to not change it to what the Planning Commission want, but still put it forward as staff's recommendation is this is a permitted use because it's your property.
Well, and the advantage of doing it as a permitted use is that it speeds up the process. I think one of the concerns that it's been expressed over times is how lengthy some of these processes are, and in some cases, a lengthy process is really the way to go. But this is a really simple thing. I think by making it necessary to have this be a conditional use as opposed to a permitted use, it drags it out for longer than it really needs to go.
Out of curiosity, at the Planning and Zoning meeting, what was the Planning and Zoning Commission's motivation for having it a conditional? Did they state as such?
The discussion revolved around the idea that if it were a conditional use, that there could be public input in regards to how it's designed and cited.
Okay.
I mean, usually with a conditional use, and I've copied the criteria into the staff report, so, whenever something's proposed as a conditional use, there's an analysis whether or not it can be compatible and whether there are mitigation measures in place to make sure that it's compatible. And I think that was where they were going with it. However, it's not going to get designed at the table, so, that's just the truth, so.
Any other questions?
So, John, you're looking at this as a permit, right?
Yes.
And not the conditional.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say conditional. I agree with Kara and Erica. Is the activity starts and by the time it gets scheduled and done, it's summer's over. And that's
Well, and this is consistent with, I think you've got two other similar structures in two other parks. You've got the gazebo with a stage and whatever over next to the rec center. Maybe people remember this, maybe they don't. That little stone wall in the middle of City Park is a stage and amphitheater over there. So that's all we're trying to be. Staff is consistent with what we have and provide those things to the citizens.
Questions, comments?
I don't have any more.
We have a motion, please.
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve on the first reading ordinance number 1264, Series 2019, ordinance amending Section 3.05A of the Land Use Code to allow theaters as a permitted use in the open zoning district and set a public hearing and second reading for February 26th, 2019.
Second.
So we were just agreeing
Keel?
on the setting a second reading. Aye.
Are you good, Ty?
Yeah, aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Betts? Aye. Noyes?
Aye.
Sheik?
Aye. Ordinance 1263, Series 2019. Tracy.
Okay, so more talk about parks. The Planning Commission wanted to rezone Montezuma Park to open space to make it more clear the acceptable uses in a park, and council has discussed this at a workshop. Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the rezoning. And just really briefly, the rezoning criteria, the relevant points are that the property was not zoned in error. We assume that smaller parcels were zoned the same as the broad area back when this was zoned in 1980 and then again in 1996. It was zoned with the surrounding area. I think that was intentional, but maybe a different philosophy than today. The area is a changing area, but ultimately the park is already a park, so this just clarifies the use of the land, and that would be the benefit of the rezoning. It does support policies in the comprehensive plan that promote parks and recreation. And lastly, it is one small parcel, so with the regards to the consideration of it being a spot zone, it will apply only to one parcel, but because it is a municipal use, it benefits the needs of the local government, and it is typical for local government facilities to be where they are needed. So it's not necessarily, you know, a benefit in the sense that it's unfair treatment to one party. And so staff recommends that council rezones the park.
All right, council, questions on this one? Then may I have a motion?
Your Honorable Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the application to rezone the property addressed as 15 West of Montezuma Avenue from neighborhood business in B to open O, initiated by the City of Cortez through ordinance number 1263, Series 2019, on second reading.
Second.
Keel?
Aye.
Betts?
Aye.
Noyes?
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Sheik? Aye.
Thanks, Tracy.
They don't have any more?
She's had 2 long days. And I think she's going to have another one tomorrow. All right, we have no draft resolutions or ordinances, no other items of business at this time. Is there a citizen that would now like to address council? All right. There's no city attorney's report. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is to remind the council that this Sunday is the employee appreciation, and if you would like to go and haven't made reservations, please contact Linda, because there are 2 seats that have been made available that I'm giving up because I'm not sure I'm going to make it back. So there are seats available too. If somebody would still like to go, please let Linda know, and you can take that seat. 2 seats I've reserved.
It's at the Elks, starts at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. And there's going to be a magician. All right, city council committee reports. Has anybody been to a meeting besides me? Thank you, Mark, for coming. John and I went to the Southwest Council of Governments meeting on Thursday, and I'm trying to remember this from the top of my head, so if I forget important things. Basically, well, one of the major topics of discussion was the fact that the COG had applied for quite a substantial FCC grant for broadband, to extend broadband and create some redundancy in this region. And the FCC denied the grant, didn't provide any information as to why they denied it. The decision was made, rather than appealing it, which, according to the executive director, usually is not successful, to simply resubmit the grant, which of course requires additional expenses for doing that. So the COG did vote for us to go ahead and do that. We also approved a grant for housing for affordable housing, for, that includes or takes in consideration climate changes. And we also approved a grant for a recycling grant for this area. I think those were the primary things, weren't they?
Yes.
Okay. I'm pretty good, considering I've slept since I went. This morning, I went to an emergency preparedness meeting. The county and also the cities within the county have to have on file an emergency preparedness plan prior to any disaster. If we don't have one on file, then let's say something terrible would happen, FEMA or government funding would be available to us. So we have to have that in place, and we have to have a plan that's regularly modified to improve it. So every 5 years. Yeah, something. Yes, yeah, something like that. So they're in the process of doing that. One of the things that they want to include as part of this is an active shooter plan. And it was mentioned that not only for the schools in the community, but also for public buildings like the county courthouse and city hall. The Emergency Operations Center, which is located at the sheriff's, well, at the jail, actually, the sheriff's section of the jail, they've received a grant to upgrade that area with some IT equipment. We had a nice presentation from the Red Cross. The Red Cross, if you have a disaster in your area, all you have to do is call them, and they will come. They usually start by establishing what they call an evacuation center, which is really just a meeting place for people to go and sign in, so that if somebody wants to know where you are, they have a central contact place. And at that point, depending upon the level of the disaster and the need, that evacuation facility could eventually become a shelter. They're talking about, they're working at developing both full-blown drills to test out the plans that they have in place versus tabletop exercises. And Karen Dixon, who works for the Public Health Department, is actually at the state and I think even the federal level, serves on boards for emergency preparedness. She's in the process of reinstating a public information group, and would like to have, and I'm passing this on, to contact her. It's training for people to provide public information services in case of an emergency. So, that's those reports, and then the report from the workshop this evening. We had a discussion on enterprise funds paying a portion of administration shared services. Ben Burkett, our new finance director, explained to us in terms that were at times clear and at times unclear, how we can make the budget and the budgetary process more transparent. He's still working on it, making it transparent for council. We discussed or had a review of the CHAP program, which was just passed at council. There was a discussion on how we might make it available for our missing council member, Mike Levy, to be able to attend workshop sessions should he be well enough to be able to do that. He is still at Grand Junction at the rehab center up there. He's scheduled hopefully to return to Cortez on March the 1st. How long it will be before he'd actually come and attend the council workshop or council session in person, it's hard to know at this point because of the extent of his injuries. So that's going to be discussed, and we'll get that back to council at the next meeting. And then we adjourn to executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that might be subject to negotiations and developing strategy for those negotiations and instructing negotiators. So that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause? All right, in that case,